The honeymoon of Anya Dubois and Langston Vance at a luxurious oceanfront resort in South Beach, Miami, should have been a dream. The sun blazed over the crystal-clear water, and a warm breeze gently brushed their faces as they walked along the shore. Anya, radiating happiness, felt like she was living the moment she had envisioned since she was a young girl, marrying the man she loved. Langston, however, held a shadow in his eyes, a restlessness that Anya couldn't quite decipher. His kisses were sweet but fleeting, and his hugs lacked the warmth they used to have. Warning signs Anya blindly ignored, putting his detachment down to post-wedding nerves. That night, they decided to dine at an exclusive candlelit restaurant within the resort. Anya looked at him with adoration, but Langston was preoccupied, checking his phone with a frequency Anya had never seen before. Each time the device vibrated, his eyes lit up with an excitement he didn't show for her. "Everything all right, babe?" Anya asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, honey, just work stuff," Langston replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The dinner continued, strained and uncomfortable, leaving Anya on edge. Later that night, upon returning to their suite, Langston received another call. "It's work. I have to take this," he said, rushing out to the balcony and closing the door behind him. Anya crept closer, her intuition urging her to seek answers. She heard Langston's voice, urgent and anxious, but couldn't make out the words. Feeling a knot in her throat, she decided to get dressed and go for a walk, hoping the fresh air would calm her. As she walked toward the beach, her mind raced. Why was Langston so distant? Why the secrecy? Her heart refused to accept what her mind was beginning to suspect. She sat on the sand, letting the night breeze caress her face. Suddenly, a voice in the distance pulled her from her trance. It was Langston's voice. Anya got up slowly, following the sound, her heart racing. She hid behind some bushes, close enough to hear, but out of sight. "I know, Naomi. I know. I'm here with you, and I'm not going back to her," Langston said, with a tone of desperation. Anya felt the world collapsing beneath her feet. Naomi Brooks, her best friend, her confidant, the woman who had stood beside her through life's toughest moments. "But what are we going to do? Anya doesn't deserve this," Naomi replied, though her voice showed no trace of regret. "We've talked about this. What matters is how you and I feel. Anya's strong. She'll get over it," Langston responded, his tone now cold and distant. Tears streamed down Anya's face, but she forced herself to maintain composure. She refused to be the weak woman who just crumpled in the face of betrayal. She walked away silently, leaving Langston and Naomi in their world of lies and broken promises. Anya returned to the resort, her mind a whirlwind. Everything she had believed had vanished, but she wouldn't allow herself to fall apart. She knew she had to think clearly and plan her next step. When Langston returned to the suite, he found Anya pretending to be asleep. With a mechanical gesture, he kissed her forehead. "I love you, Anya," he murmured, his words sounding hollow and soulless. The next morning, Anya woke up early, quietly packed her belongings, and left a note on the bedside table, before walking out without looking back. The note simply read, "I know everything. Don't worry, I won't make a scene. Just don't look for me." The trip back home to Atlanta felt long, but Anya used the time to think. She decided to confront the situation on her own terms. No tears, no shouting, only cold calculation. When she arrived back at her home in Buckhead, the first message she received was from Imani Vance, her mother-in-law. Anya felt a pang of anger, but decided to answer. "Anya, I hope you're back home. We need to talk," Imani said with her usual superior tone. "I'm here, Imani. What do you need?" Anya replied, keeping her voice neutral. "I need you to understand something, darling. What happened between Langston and that woman is your fault. You didn't know how to keep my son by your side. You didn't know how to satisfy him," Imani said cruelly, enjoying every word. Anya felt rage ignite, but kept it controlled. "You think so, Imani? Well, you hold on to that thought. because your precious son won't be my problem anymore. Now it's your turn to deal with the consequences." Anya hung up, ready for whatever came next. Later that day, Anya knew she needed a trusted ally. She drove to the office of Idris Harper, an old friend from Spelman College, a lawyer with an impeccable reputation and a noble heart. Idris greeted her with warmth, but his expression quickly changed when he saw the sadness in her eyes. "Anya, what happened?" he asked. "Idris, I need your help, but more than anything, I need justice," she said, finally feeling she could breathe and regain control. Idris listened in silence to the whole story. When she finished, he took her hands. "Don't worry, Anya. We're going to make them pay, and we'll do it in a way they'll never forget," he promised firmly. Anya knew the game had begun, and this time, she didn't plan on losing.
Anya Dubois woke up early, her emotional pain replaced by a cold, calculated determination. The betrayal she had suffered on her honeymoon had not just broken her heart, it had ignited a focused resolve for vengeance. Idris Harper, her unexpected ally, was with her every step of the way, helping her navigate the dark labyrinth of lies and manipulation surrounding Langston and his mother, Imani Vance. Idris had immediately started investigating Naomi Brooks and Langston's backgrounds, just as Anya requested. What he discovered was more disturbing than either of them imagined. Naomi hadn't just been Langston's mistress and Anya's friend. She was deeply implicated in a series of financial frauds involving Langston's family's company, Vance Family Holdings. This business was controlled by Imani with an iron fist. The situation was far more dangerous and sinister than Anya had predicted, revealing a level of deceit that went far beyond infidelity. In his Atlanta office, Idris laid the documents he had gathered across the table in front of Anya. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a detailed report. "Naomi and Langston are involved in a massive embezzlement scheme. They've been siphoning millions of dollars from the company for months." Anya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. So all of this was part of a plan to destroy me and take everything? Idris nodded grimly. "Imani knows, but she's been covering it all up to protect the family's reputation." He paused, revealing the deepest layer of deception. "But there's more. Imani doesn't just know. It looks like she orchestrated it from the beginning. She wanted Langston to commit to Naomi, to ensure she controlled everything, even her own son. Nye was a pawn in Imani's game, a tool for financial manipulation that she thought she could manage." The revelation hit Imani like a cold wave. The woman who had always pretended to be a traditional, caring mother-in-law while simultaneously insulting Anya was actually a master manipulator who had orchestrated the destruction of Anya's marriage and used her son for financial gain. "I won't let this continue," Anya stated, her voice iron. "We are going to expose the whole truth." While Idris continued to investigate the financial trails, Anya prepared to confront Naomi. The tension grew with every step she took toward the Langston family mansion in the suburbs of Atlanta, where she knew Naomi would be. The plan was simple: confront her with the evidence Idris had gathered and obtain a confession that could be used against Naomi and, by extension, against Imani. Upon arrival, Naomi greeted her with a fake laugh, feigning surprise. "Anya, I didn't expect to see you so soon. What brings you here?" she asked in a saccharine voice. "I came to talk to you, Naomi. There are things we need to clear up," Anya replied in a tone that allowed no argument. Anya refused to enter the house, insisting they speak outside, where there were no shadows to hide in. Anya pulled out the documents Idris had prepared, placing them in front of Naomi. "You know what this is, right?" Naomi took the papers, trying to keep her expression impassive, but her eyes betrayed her fear. "I don't know what you're talking about, Anya." "Of course you do. It's the proof of all the embezzlement you and Langston have been doing, all under Imani's orders. How long did you think you could keep this secret?" Anya said, her voice firm and full of authority. Naomi tried to regain control, dismissing the evidence as a distortion of reality fueled by Anya's pain. Pain? It's not pain I feel, Naomi. It's clarity. It's the realization that I've been surrounded by snakes this whole time. Anya responded with a coldness that made Naomi take a step back. Naomi finally showed her true colors, her mask dropping. And what are you going to do, Anya? Publish all of this? If you do, you'll destroy not only Langston, but yourself. No one will believe you. That's what you think, Naomi, but the truth always comes out, and when it does, there will be no place to hide for you, or Imani. The tension between the two women was palpable, a silent battle where each evaluated her next move. Naomi, unable to contain her rage, unleashed her jealousy. You were always the favorite, the good one, the one who had everything. But you know what? Langston never loved you. He was with me long before you two got married. It was always me, Anya, and it always will be. Anya felt a pang, but refused to show weakness. And look how that turned out, Naomi. You have Langston, but you don't have his respect or his loyalty. You're just another pawn in Imani's game, and when she's done with you, she'll discard you like everyone else.
The conversation between Anya Dubois and Naomi Brooks was abruptly cut short when Langston Vance appeared in the doorway, his face showing confusion at seeing the two women face to face. "What is going on here?" he asked, looking from Anya to Naomi. "Your wife came here to accuse me of ridiculous things," Naomi said, quickly trying to sound innocent and regain control, though her voice had a sharp, desperate edge. Anya looked directly at Langston, her voice firm and unwavering. "I found out everything, Langston. I know what you, Naomi, and Imani have been doing. I won't stay silent." Langston tried to approach her, but Anya raised a hand to stop him. "Don't come near me. I've endured enough lies. This ends here." Naomi, seeing the situation spiraling, turned to Langston in a final plea for his loyalty. "Are you going to let her talk to you like that? Are you going to let her ruin everything we've built?" But Langston, for the first time, didn't respond immediately. Something in Anya's gaze, the unwavering truth in her eyes, made him stop. He had lived his entire life as a weak man, easily manipulated by his mother and now by his mistress. Confronted with the harsh reality of their massive embezzlement scheme and personal betrayal, he felt everything he had done was deeply wrong. "Anya, let me explain. It's not what it looks like," he began to stammer. But Anya cut him off mercilessly. "It's not what it looks like? Then tell me, Langston, what is it? What excuse do you have for stealing from your own company, for betraying me with my best friend? What justification can you give me now?" Her voice was loaded with controlled pain and fury, and Langston fell silent, unable to respond. The truth was there, naked and raw, and no words could redeem him. Anya, seeing there was nothing left to say, turned and began to walk toward her SUV. "This isn't over, Langston. Not for you, not for Imani, and not for Naomi. Prepare to face the consequences of your actions." That night, as Anya and her lawyer, Idris Harper, reviewed the evidence they had collected, a controversial idea began to form in Anya's mind. "What if we take it one step further?" she suggested to Idris, a spark of dangerous determination in her eyes. "What do you mean?" Idris asked, intrigued by Anya's tone. "Anya has always been one step ahead, controlling everyone from the shadows. But what if we pull her out of her comfort zone? What if we make what we've discovered public before she can react?" Idris immediately understood the massive risk and potential reward. "You're talking about taking this war public. It would be risky, but it might also be the only way to defeat her. Imani thrives in secrecy." Anya nodded.
Imani has played with our lives as if they were our pawns. It's time to lay our cards on the table and show her she doesn't have the control she thinks she does. The decision was made. Instead of handling the divorce quietly in the shadows, Anya decided to take the battle to the most dangerous ground of all, public opinion. It was a risky move, but one she believed was necessary to finally destroy the empire of lies that Imani had built. That very night, Anya recorded a video recounting her story, displaying the irrefutable evidence of Langston and Naomi's financial crimes and revealing the extent of Imani's orchestrations. She uploaded it to a popular online platform under a pseudonym, ensuring it was widely distributed. The story went viral, generating a controversy that no one could ignore. The impact was immediate. The media pounced on the story, and the public image of the Vance family and their company, Vance Family Holdings, began to crumble. Imani, furious and desperate, tried to contain the damage, but it was too late. The scandal had erupted, and there was no way to control it anymore. Anya watched the news on TV, seeing her plan unfold. Idris, sitting beside her, asked if he was ready for the final battle. Anya, her gaze fixed on the screen, nodded. "I am, Idris. This is just the beginning." The scandal, fueled by Anya Dubois' viral video, exploded like a bomb, shaking the foundations of the Vance family and destroying the reputation Imani Vance had meticulously built over decades. Anya watched as the world her mother-in-law had controlled with an iron fist began to crumble. News of the embezzlement, the manipulations, and the betrayals dominated the headlines, and each new revelation increased the pressure on Imani, Langston, and Naomi. Imani, enraged at having lost control, desperately tried to contain the damage. She called an urgent family meeting at the mansion, a last-ditch effort to rally her allies and concoct a plan to salvage what was left of her empire. When Langston and Naomi arrived, they found Imani pacing the main living room, her face contorted with fury. "This is all that stupid woman's fault," Imani spat, referring to Anya with venom in her voice. "I thought we could manage her, but she's become more dangerous than I imagined. We have to act fast before it's too late." Naomi, who had lost all her confidence after the public revelation, remained silent, unable to meet Imani's eyes. "Imani," Naomi mumbled, "maybe we went too far. People are starting to talk, and we won't be able to stop it." Imani turned on her with a rage she rarely showed. "Are you suggesting I surrender? Never! Not after everything I've done to keep this family on top." Langston, who had remained quiet, finally spoke. "Mother, maybe Naomi is right. We've lost. Anya has all the evidence. There's no way to escape this. We should look for a way to minimize the damage, but we can't keep fighting." Imani's gaze hardened at her son's words. "I can't believe you're willing to give up, Langston. Everything I've done has been for you, so you could have a brilliant future, and now you want to let a scorned woman destroy it all?" Langston lowered his gaze, ashamed. He had lived his entire life in his mother's shadow, and for the first time he realized the weight that shadow had put on him. "It's not just Anya. It's everything we've done. We can't keep pretending we're untouchable anymore." While the Vance family was fracturing, Anya and Idris Harper prepared for the legal battle. Idris had assembled an elite legal team, ensuring they were ready to take the case to court if Imani failed to yield. "Anya, we're ready," Idris said as he reviewed the final documents. "Everything is prepared for the preliminary hearing. Imani won't be able to hide anything she's done." Anya, sitting across from him, nodded with determination. "I won't stop until Imani pays for everything. This isn't just about personal justice, Idris. It's something bigger." The days that followed were chaotic. Imani tried everything in her power to discredit Anya and minimize the impact of the scandal. But the truth was already beyond her control. Idris's evidence was irrefutable, and Imani's every attempt to change the narrative failed miserably. The day of the hearing arrived, Imani, with an arrogant expression, tried to maintain her dignity as Anya's lawyers presented the evidence. It became clear that Imani was cornered. The judge ruled that Imani and Langston should be prosecuted for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. Niana, who had cooperated with the authorities in a desperate attempt to reduce her sentence, was sentenced to time in federal prison. But the most controversial part was yet to come. Idris had prepared a surprise no one expected. At the end of the hearing, he presented a document that changed the entire course of the case. It turned out that years ago, Imani had signed a secret prenuptial agreement guaranteeing Anya a significant portion of the Vance family assets in case of divorce. An agreement Imani had never revealed to Langston or even Naomi. When the judge ordered the execution of the agreement, Anya became the legal owner of a massive part of the family fortune, a fortune Imani had fought her entire life to protect. Imani's face, upon hearing the sentence, was a mixture of disbelief and rage. She had lost everything. Anya, on the other hand, maintained her composure. She had won more than she expected, not just materially, but in the fight to reclaim her dignity and her life.
Anya Dubois stood victorious, not only achieving her divorce, but also becoming the unexpected legal owner of a massive portion of the Vance family fortune. Imani Vance's face upon hearing the judgment was a mixture of disbelief and utter rage. She had lost everything she had spent her life manipulating and hoarding. Anya, on the other hand, maintained her composure. She had won much more than money. She had won her dignity, her freedom, and the final satisfaction of justice. Leaving the courthouse, the press swarmed to get statements. Anya, now the most talked about woman in Atlanta, simply told the media, "This is not just a victory for me. It is a victory for truth and justice and for all the people who have been victims of those who believe they are above the law." In the following days, Anya's life changed dramatically. With the fortune she now possessed, millions of dollars, she decided to invest it strategically. Her first move was to dedicate resources to nonprofit organizations and projects that helped other women who, like her, had been betrayed and oppressed, turning her painful experience into a source of support for others. Idris Harper, her lawyer and steadfast ally, was always by her side, supporting her every step of the way. But Anya's vision was bigger than charity. In a controversial move that stunned the business world, she decided to buy the very Vance family holdings company that Imani and Langston had tried to destroy and embezzle. She then transformed it into a financial powerhouse, much bigger and more legitimate than it had ever been under Imani's corrupt control. Imani Vance, now reduced to a prisoner, watched helplessly from her cell as the woman she had despised and underestimated became one of the most powerful black businesswomen in the country. The end came with a final, unforgettable confrontation. Imani, in her last desperate attempt to reclaim some of her old life, requested to see Anya. When Anya walked into the cold prison visiting room, she found an Imani who was defeated but still full of resentment. "Are you just going to stand there and look at me with pity?" Imani said, her voice rough and broken. "You think you won, Anya? That you can replace me in the world I built?" Anya, maintaining the calm she had developed, sat across from her. "I'm not here to replace you, Imani. I'm here because I want you to know that despite everything you didn't manage to destroy me." She continued, offering a stark assessment of the consequences. "And you didn't manage to destroy what was good in this family. Langston can rebuild his life away from your influence. Naomi will have to face her own demons. And me? I have found peace." Imani looked at her with hatred. "Peace? After everything you have done?" "Yes, Imani, peace. Because unlike you, I'm not obsessed with control. I don't need to destroy others to feel whole. I've learned that true strength doesn't come from power, but from forgiveness." Anya offered the ultimate release. "And I forgive you, Imani, not because you deserve it, but because I need it."
Imani, for the first time, was left speechless. Anya stood up, ready to leave. Before walking out, she looked at Imani one last time. "Your time is over, Imani. Mine is just beginning." The final word had been spoken in the cold prison visiting room. Anya Dubois had offered Imani Vance forgiveness, not as an act of grace for Imani, but as a necessary act of liberation for herself. Standing there, watching the defeated matriarch, the woman who had mocked her capacity to satisfy her son and then orchestrated her downfall, Anya realized the true scale of her victory. She had stripped Imani of the one thing she truly valued: control. Anya walked out of the prison and into the cool Atlanta air, the weight of the Vance drama finally lifted from her shoulders. The path ahead was vast, illuminated by the fortune and the business empire she now controlled. She was no longer just the betrayed wife. She was the financial phoenix. Anya reflected on the concept of strength. Imani believed strength came from power, manipulation, and destruction. Her entire life was a monument to control, and when she lost control, she lost everything. Anya, however, had discovered a different kind of strength, one rooted in self-respect and the capacity for reconstruction. Her victory wasn't defined by the millions of dollars she now possessed. It was defined by the fact that she refused to be reduced to the identity her husband and mother-in-law had prescribed for her: a scorned woman or a weak, dependent wife. She used the resources she obtained to establish a powerful, ethical enterprise and to fund organizations that helped other women rebuild their lives after betrayal. This was her legacy, turning bitter injustice into active justice for others. Anya had heard through Idris that Langston Vance was humbled, struggling to rebuild his life away from his mother's suffocating influence, just as Anya had predicted. He was forced to confront his own weakness and complicity without the shield of the family name. Naomi Brooks, who had gleefully betrayed her friend and engaged in financial crimes, was now serving her time in federal prison. She had chased money and power, only to become a discarded pawn, exactly as Anya had warned. Anya recognized that while her life with Langston had ended in a painful lie, it had inadvertently led her to her true potential. She had found peace, a quiet, unshakable confidence that did not rely on external circumstances or another person's love. Anya's future was hers alone to chart. She continued to receive strong support and respect from her lawyer, Idris Harper, who had witnessed her transformation from devastation to warrior firsthand. Her final thought as she looked towards the Atlanta skyline was this: she had once thought happiness was marrying the man of her dreams. She now knew that true happiness was being the woman of her own making, one who was strong enough to face the worst betrayal and emerge whole, free, and in control of her own destiny. The dramatic chapter of the Vance family was decisively closed. Anya Dubois walked away from the prison, leaving Imani Vance defeated and speechless, a fate far more crushing than a simple loss in court. The memory of Imani's broken pride, the realization that the woman she scorned had taken everything she cherished, was the final, quiet measure of Anya's victory. Anya reflected deeply on the nature of strength. Imani believed strength came from power, control, and the ability to manipulate others. Her entire life had been a monument to this toxic control, and when she lost that grip, her empire and her identity collapsed completely. Anya, however, had discovered a different kind of strength, one rooted in self-respect and the capacity for reconstruction. Her victory wasn't defined by the millions of dollars she now possessed. It was defined by the fact that she refused to be reduced to the identity her husband and mother-in-law had prescribed for her: a scorned woman or a weak, dependent wife. She used the fortune secured by the secret prenup to establish a powerful, ethical enterprise and to fund organizations that helped other women rebuild their lives after betrayal. She had found peace, a quiet, unshakable confidence that did not rely on external circumstances or another person's love. This peace allowed her to grant Imani the ultimate release. And I forgive you, Imani, not because you deserve it, but because I need it. Forgiveness was not an act of grace for the prisoner, but an essential act of liberation for the self. Anya acknowledged the final fate of the people who had wronged her. Langston Vance, once the successful executive, was humbled and struggling to rebuild his life, stripped of his mother's shielding influence. Naomi Brooks, who had gleefully betrayed her friend and engaged in financial crimes, was serving time in federal prison. Anya realized that while her marriage with Langston ended in a painful lie, it had inadvertently led her to her true potential. Her final thought as she looked towards the Atlanta skyline was this. She had once thought happiness was marrying the man of her dreams. She now knew that true happiness was being the woman of her own making, one who was strong enough to face the worst betrayal and emerge whole, free, and in control of her own destiny. Her journey was a testament to the fact that betrayal can be a catalyst, forcing one to discover the self-reliance that transcends any temporary heartbreak. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.